Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Dave Davis with Your Money Matters.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our digital studio here at News on 6 in downtown Tulsa. I'm Dave Davis. Your Money Matters, and we're going beyond the headlines today with a big deal that has been announced from the White House. They're called Trump accounts or Invest America, where if you have a baby that's born between January 1st of this past year, 2025, until December 31st of 2028, they can get apply for $1,000 seed money from the federal government, and it's essentially an investment account for when that baby grows up. And that's the idea, and that's what's been presented both in news conferences, it's on government websites, whitehouse.gov. The Dell family, the Dell family has now become involved and planted some more seed money. It's a lot to get through. What does it mean? How is it different from a 529 or other college savings accounts? And I thought the perfect person, and Josh Herlin from Future You Financial is here. He reached out to me and said, hey, I can speak on this. And it was perfect because, Josh, I was looking for somebody who could kind of just dive deep into this. You are the founder and CEO of Future You Financial. You deal with people's future financial plans all the time. So first reaction to the Trump accounts. I'll just give you the floor here.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Welcome, everyone. And yeah, first reaction, I think, is this is fantastic just to get more families talking about finances with their children, right? Americans typically undersave. The financial literacy is still really low. And I think if we get our kids involved, that's really going to prod us to pay more attention to our own retirement accounts.
Anything about how this is different than other savings accounts? Do we have that information yet? Like, how do we differentiate between a 529, whether we should go that route, or various other ways to pay for? The idea is to pay for college, or is Trump accounts also, are we talking about future careers? Like, what will they? I asked two questions. Let me back up. First question. What did the Trump accounts designed to do? Pay for college or pay for career or both?
Yeah, I think it's still a moving target. My understanding is this is a direct stimulus payment essentially from the U.S. Treasury to all newborn babies, as you said, from January from 2025 to 2028. And they get $1,000, and then that money is going to be invested for them. And they're getting a lot of proposals right now from the big banks and firms on who's actually going to administer this. But most likely, it sounds like going to be just invested in like the S&P 500, which is 500 of America's largest companies. So if a company gets big enough to get added to the S&P, it gets added. And if a company gets too small, it gets taken out. And the average return for the S&P 500 has been about 9 to 11% per year. So if your kid doesn't touch this at age 18, at that growth rate, you're looking at about $5,000. At 17, let's see, I think it's about, at 18, it's about $17,000. And at like age 65, when they're retirement age, it's almost $500,000. Now, if they or you or someone just puts in an extra $10 a month into that, like systematically investing, that nearly doubles those numbers. So that turns into almost $1 million at age 65 if they don't touch it.
Right. And so
one of the things we really...
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
One of the things we really try to help clients and people understand, I think it's super important, is, $1 million sounds great, but that might be a goal. Maybe you buy a house or something. But if you understand you can spend 4% of that per year, that turns into $40,000 per year that you should always be able to rely on for income. And so what we try to help people understand, and hope they plan on doing a lot of financial literacy with this program within the schools and everything else is my understanding. But if people can help understand that, that's going to help provide them lifetime income and not just a big lump sum when they turn 18, I think that it really help people get invested and stay invested.
Okay, and that's a lot of really great information. So Josh, the 529 account, and this is exactly what I was going to ask. Again, there's just so much I want to get to it all, and I think we have some time for that today. But the 529 account, it is funded through our own contributions, but it grows by being connected to the S&P 500. So you don't have to contribute. You can just do the $1,000 seed money and you'll have 17 grand by the time you're 18, just based on the average growth of the S&P 500. But the idea is to put your own money in to exponentially grow that. That's the idea, essentially, how this account grows.
That's right. Individual families can contribute up to $5,000 per year. Your employer can contribute like up to $2,500 per year for your child. And
Mm.
so again, I think if we can get people involved in that, I think that's really going to help. Like people just understand the financial markets better. Like we have a custodial Roth IRA for our daughter and our son, and they do chores and make them save half, and they get to invest half. And my daughter's invested in Starbucks, and she's 9 years old. And now when we go to Starbucks and line's too short, she's worried her stock price is going to go right.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's so funny. That's awesome.
So it's the money that they're putting in here isn't a huge amount, but if you really take advantage of it and use it as a tool to talk with your children about finances, I think it's going to help everyone out.
Yeah, and as we take a look, and I just want to go back to this as we hit this up off at the top. So what this is, the Trump accounts, if you are born between January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2028, so babies, you get $1,000 seed money from the federal government, and you have to apply for that. That's what we know for now. This information somewhat is still evolving, but you have to apply for that $1,000 seed money from the federal government through a Trump account. If you are under 18 but weren't born between these dates, so like your daughter, my 7-year-old son, my 5-year-old son, if you want to get in on the Trump account, then you will not get the $1,000 seed money, but you would still get the benefit of the S&P 500 growth in whatever way else it grows. You would have to contribute your own nest egg, essentially. Also from CBS News, Josh, I wanted to bring this up, and I'll handle this part, but this is on this is on CBSNews.com, saying that the Treasury Department is saying that households need to use IRS Form 4547 to open a Trump account on behalf of the child. So we've got the IRS Form 4547, $1,000 seed money. If you're not an infant right now or a parent of an infant, you can still apply for a Trump account, but you can't get that seed money. And then there's something else, Josh, and I wanted you to talk about this. So the Dell family also contributed like a few $1 billion, or what was it? A few. I just had that number in front of me. So tell me about what the Dell money is going to do. It's the first 25 million Americans under age 10 will get a certain amount. So this gift, tell me about this gift and what this means here.
That's right. That made big headlines, and a lot of the things that comes out, we all kind of wonder if they're true or not. I think this really established the credibility of this program.
It's 6.25 billion. Real quick, Josh. It is. I just saw
right.
6.25 billion is what
a big number.
Michael and Susan Dell pledged to the Trump account. 6.25 billion. Go ahead.
Right. So now I'm glad I bought that laptop in college. Right. So.
Right. So what does this mean?
Yeah, so they felt that other kids should be able to participate, and so as long as you live in a zip code below, I think the median income is $150,000, $180,000, then your 10-year-old child or under will get $250 into the U.S. Treasury account in the S&P more or less to grow tax deferred until they turn 18. And it should be supplemented to 529s or other programs. That my understanding is it's theirs to use as they wish when they turn 18. So.
Okay.
That's a huge donation from the Dell family.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, because obviously it's kind of too late if you have older kids, you would think, getting that $1,000 seed money. But now with this gift from the Dell family, this gives you $250 as long as you have kids age 10 and under in those zip codes under $150,000. We both have kids under 10 and under, so this applies to a lot of people. Getting that $250 seed money, that can grow to a few thousand if you don't even touch it by the time that you're 18. And I don't have that math in front of me, but that is something worth talking about, and something that my wife and I have talked about of like, okay, we're doing the 529 thing. Do we do these Trump accounts? And it's interesting because, Josh, with 529s, I know there are strings attached on how you can use it. So kind of compare what you know about the Trump accounts, 529, and then maybe something like the IRA that you were talking about. What are kind of the strings attached as far as we know of how that money can be used when that child's 18?
Sure. And I don't know, I did FAFSA when I was going to college. I don't know how these Trump accounts may or may not affect financial aid. I wouldn't worry about that yet. We have a long ways to go. 529 is based on the state, and you get to take how much you contribute into that off your state income taxes, which is about 5%. So you put in $10,000, you get to save $500 that year on your Oklahoma State 529 plan. And they typically have what's called a cafeteria-style fund lineup. And so they're going to have a few like a guaranteed option, some bond funds, or like target date funds, which means, my kid is 1 year old now. In 17 years, he'll be 18, and I want to reduce the risk of that account as he ages. So when he goes to college, the money's still there, and a big recession doesn't delay his payments, right? With the Trump accounts, I believe it's just going to be in the S&P 500. So you need to keep that in mind, that if a big recession may drop that account in half at any time. It typically takes a year or two to recover from that. But if your kid is planning to use, for example, like the Trump account money that might be worth $10,000 when they're 18, and a big recession hits, that could get cut in half. So just keep that in mind. You need to keep a long-term perspective for these Trump accounts, because they're not risk adjusted. They're just the S&P 500. So they're going to be volatile. They're going to match the correlation of the S&P 500, which might be up 20% a year or down 20% in any given year.
Well, and I think you hit on it earlier, is that the average growth per year you said was between, what was it, 8 and 12% on the S&P 500. So that long-term view of looking at average growth, yes, history tells us there will be some ups and downs, but average growth is in a positive direction for the S&P 500, and that's some level of comfort, right?
Sure. I call it financial planning on a napkin, but what I often do for people is just have them go to like investor.gov and look up a compound interest rate calculator. And there you can really quickly put in the $1,000, how much you plan to contribute every year, type in how many years you want to run the math for, and that'll give you a really rough ballpark number of your future value.
Some other questions that I had for you here, Josh. You've really been reading up on this. So custodianship. Who owns these accounts? Who's the custodian of them? How do you make sure, or how is the government making sure that this money gets to the correct people when they turn 18 and that the parents don't take advantage of it, basically? Tell us about the kind of custodianship of this.
I think that's a real risk and a real issue. I'm a former Army guy, and if you go outside of the base on any Army base, there's predatory car lenders everywhere, and so our society has a bad habit of that, I think. S&P investing in the long term is a really good, steady way to do it. Wall Street gets paid more when you trade more. And so I'm really kind of worried about incentives being out there to get money from these kids when they get older. But my understanding is, as of now, the accounts will be traded with the Treasury, and then they're shopping for providers. I think Robinhood and Schwab are in there trying to make, one of the founders of Airbnb is going to develop an app for the kids. And there may even be a Super Bowl commercial about this. And they're supposed to overlay it with a lot of financial education, and I really hope they do that, because, I have children. I have a 13-year-old, and I was 13 once. I can really imagine a lot of kids. I can see PlayStation stock going skyrocket when these turn, in 18 years.
Well, exactly.
We don't want to see that happen. Yeah.
Well, that's what we were talking about of like the 529s. There are certain guardrails in place. And again, the Trump accounts were just announced, if you're watching this here at the end of 2025, when we're recording this, December 8th of 2025. I mean, the Trump accounts were just announced. And so the guardrails in the future, these kids, it's going to be a long time until they turn 18. So it'll be interesting to see how these evolve. But yeah, I mean, 529, there's guardrails. You can't do the PlayStations when you're 18, or at least you're not supposed to be able to. When the 529s mature, and the tax advantage of the 529, that's another big example. As you mentioned, a big advantage of the 529 over other plans. But now with the Trump accounts, it will be interesting, Josh, to see what the guardrails will be and how, it kind of guides how it's spent. But I think it's also interesting to point out, it could be for career readiness, because that is also, it seems like a very renewed focus of the government. It's not just about like paying for college, but like if you don't go to college, then what? Because we still need a workforce, college educated or not, we need a workforce.
Right. Well, and we're part of what's called the sandwich generation. We have young children and aging parents, and so hopefully this is going to leave some stress off our backs. Maybe our kids can pick up the tab a little bit more for savings, or fund their own retirement and be more financially independent at an earlier age. Use part of it for that down payment on a house, which we know home affordability is a major issue, and the wealth gap is a major issue. And so, if done properly, I think this could go a long way in helping people tackle that wealth gap. Because really, the stock market is really amazing. For a nominal amount of money, you can own pieces of the world's greatest companies. And if you let that sit over time, it can really do you a lot of good.
Okay, and we've gone over a lot today, and it's been awesome, and we're going to continue on this. But I just wanted to do a brief recap. So the The White House is saying IRS Form 4547 is what you need to fill out to apply for these. Essentially how they work, if you have a baby born between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028, you can open a Trump account with $1,000 seed money that you apply for, and that $1,000 seed money will be applied to the Trump account. If you want a child to join in on the Trump account under 18 but not a baby, you can still get one of these accounts that will be mostly funded by the S&P 500. You can open a Trump account for your child, but you will not get the $1,000 seed money. However, the Dells then stepped in, the Dells of Dell Technologies, the Dells stepped in and said, actually, if you're under 10 in certain zip codes, medium household income, you can get $250. Even if you're on a baby, you can get $250 seed money provided by the Dell family of Dell Technologies. So that's essentially it. Anybody under 10, anybody can apply for these. Any child can apply for these, but it just depends if they're going to give you seed money or if you have to fully fund it themselves. Is that pretty much it, Josh? Any child can apply for a Trump account. It's just how much money you're going to start out with from the government.
As long as they have a social security number. Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, as long as they have a social security number. So I have done a lot of talking, maybe more talking on this segment than I ever have. I want to give you the floor here, Josh. You've done the research. Anything I've missed? Anything else you want to hit here?
I think we covered about all of it. I think it's still kind of a little bit in flux and a little bit in motion. It's kind of interesting how this all started. I guess a hedge fund manager was trying to get this done, and his buddy was playing poker with Ted Cruz a few years ago, and they put them together and kind of pushed this thing through. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. Hopefully they'll keep funding it beyond the 3 years. And it's a big stimulus for the economy. It's a big jumpstart for children. And overall, I think it's hugely impactful for Americans.
And so far, from what you can tell, you think that this is going to be a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's risks all the time. I think, this could add to inflation. If kids are all going to start with 10 grand when they're 18, I think that could raise the cost of certain things. But again, I think the money is kind of nominal, but they're giving you a foundation, and hopefully they can make it really easy for kids and parents and employers to contribute. So building wealth is all about really financial habits and discipline. So if every time you get paid, you put 10% into this thing, even starting doing chores, mowing yards when you're 13, that's really going to compound, and the trick is just teaching kids to hold on to it and what that lifetime income is going to be, and not like, oh, well, I've got 10 grand, I can go buy a car or PlayStations or whatever they are, It's just helping them understand that, annuitizing that income stream, which is something we all need to work on.
Yeah, and whatever it will be 18 years from now, whatever the hot thing is going to buy, just be aware of that. So Josh Hurlin, right, founder and CEO of Future You Financial, thank you for all your research and all your background you've done on these Trump accounts. I hope that folks at home have gotten a lot out of this. You can always email me at dave.davis@griffin.news if you have additional questions. Josh, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, my pleasure, Dave.
So that was Josh Hurlin of Future You Financial. For now, I'm Dave Davis here at the News on 6 Digital Studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We thank you so much for joining us for our session today of Your Money Matters on the streaming desk. We will be back here later with more relevant topics for you to take what we talk about in the news and make it super applicable to your life. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's own digital studio stream. Stay with News on 6 online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.